Two black men. That is how the only witness to a 1992 Queens murder described the killers. And now the man convicted in that killing is out of prison and wants to clear his name. As the I-Team's Chris Glorioso reports, the first thing you'll notice about him is he's not black. And he says that's just one of the grave mistakes that sent him to prison for more than 2 decades.
I lost 22 years of my life. I lost 22 years of raising my daughter.
After more than 2 decades in state penitentiaries, Efrain Diaz finally hugged his daughter and went home last month. But mentally, he is not moving on. Even the judge who sent Diaz to prison for murder called the evidence against him far from overwhelming.
There was nothing connecting me to this crime.
It was the summer of 1992 when Consuelo Agudelo and her boyfriend Samir Hurtado were shot execution style in this Woodside apartment. Agudelo died on her own bed, but Hurtado survived. As medics arrived, he stumbled downstairs.
According to this police report, Hurtado was bleeding heavily right here in this lobby. He told police the killers were 2 males, dark complexion.
These handwritten police notes say he told the responding medic 2 black men just shot him. And hours later, in a hospital bed, Hurtado spoke up again.
This time, the detective's notes say he described just one killer as a large black man about 6 feet tall, stressing he was not Hispanic.
The surviving victim described the killers as 2 black men. How would you describe your race?
I would describe myself as a white Hispanic.
Efrain Diaz did not fit the description. He's Hispanic and far from 6 feet tall. He's 5'6". There were also no fingerprints, no DNA, no gun, no physical evidence linking him to the crime. So how did Diaz get charged and convicted of murder a full 10 years later?
This man that came out 10 years later after the crime was committed, only because he was in custody.
Nearly a decade after Consuelo Agudelo was killed, the only witness to the crime, Samir Hurtado, changed his story. Back then, the New York Post called Hurtado a flip-flop druggie because he came forward only after he was facing deportation on a drug charge. This time, instead of describing the killers as 2 black men whom he did not know, Hurtado said Efrain Diaz was the killer and the motive was drug money. The jury believed it.
They deviated from all the evidence.
Diaz admits to dealing drugs in the 80s and early 90s, but says prior to his trial, he never met Samir Hurtado. On the stand, Hurtado denied describing the killers as black men, but his denial was never challenged with the multiple police notes that show he only implicated black men. The jury also never saw this, a prior felony complaint accusing the victim's husband of once stabbing her with a screwdriver.
Her husband tried to stab her because he found out that she was cheating on him.
Consuelo Agudelo's husband has since passed away, but Efrain says seeing this complaint would have given the jury reasonable doubt. While he was still locked up, Efrain reached out to Avi Gross, an investigator who takes wrongful conviction cases and shops them around to lawyers.
What I do, I just take the documents from attorney to attorney, hoping that attorneys can pick it up, that they can see the case, read the case, see that he is actually wrongfully convicted.
Avi and Efrain have made some progress. A group of nonprofit lawyers called the Exoneration Initiative is now reinvestigating the case. Efrain is free on parole and taking day jobs to earn money. But he wants the world to know he always maintained his innocence, even rejecting a plea deal of just 5 years locked up when he was facing 30 to 40.
I won't know how to face my family by pleading guilty to taking the life of a person, of a human being.
Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz declined to answer specific questions about this case, but her office did confirm the conviction of Efrain Diaz is now one of more than 130 cases under review by the DA's Conviction Integrity Unit. Chris Glorioso, News 4 New York.